Okay, so we're live. We're gonna give it some time. Let me share into my little special group
Mhm,
because they have been waiting for you.
mhm.
Let's see. Let's see. Give the people time. All right. Leah Frazier. We're live on YouTube. Woohoo! I see you on my feed. Share. Group. Share. All right, cool. Hi, Kimber.
Hello, Leah.
So we're just gonna go ahead and get started, and hopefully people will join in. Um, so excited that you're able to take time out of your busy schedule and join us right before the holidays. I thought this would be a good subject to tackle, and then I needed an actual PhD holder to talk about this, an actual doctor to talk about stress management tips. Hi, Linda. Linda says hello from LinkedIn.
Hi, Linda.
So I want to introduce Dr. Kimber Shelton. First of all, we went to college together.
Yes, you did.
She played volleyball. I was on the basketball team, and then we ended up in the same Metroplex here in Dallas Fort Worth. And she has just gone on to do Frozen, amazing things. Kimber, why don't you talk a little bit about what you do right now, and then I'm going to give you your flowers in just a little bit.
Okay.
Just for a little bit.
Yes, we met at a tiny little school in North Chili, New York. I mean, West Chili, New York.
I thought it was chili that whole time. I was like, it spelled like chili.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we've been able to stay connected here. I'm a licensed psychologist and my practice is in Texas. So I have a virtual practice where I see anyone in Texas and I specialize in cultural diversity issues, LGBTQ issues, relationships, and trauma, primarily serving Black folk. And I am the co editor of a handbook on counseling African American women. And I do lots of, yay! Lots of trainings and workshops around cultural diversity and increasing cultural competence. And that I want people of color and Black women specifically to be able to have access to therapy spaces that are transformative and healing for them. So, really working with clinicians to be more competent in being able to serve our unique needs.
And we thank you for it. Thank you for your work. I just want to give you your flowers because this book is a lifeline. So thank you, and to all of your other co-authors and collaborators. If you guys can't see it, it's a handbook on counseling African American women. When did this come out? It feels like it was just yesterday, but it's been some years.
Yeah, it came out. The hardback came out in 2022. However, because the book was doing so well, our publisher just released in February 2024 a paperback version, which is super exciting because this is a much more affordable copy. And that means then more therapists will have access to it, which ideally means more Black women will have access to the care and resources that we need.
I just want to say now more than ever, I mean, it's always been relevant, but everything that we've been through as a community, especially this post-election, I don't know if you got hit up quite a bit, but we need this more than ever. Just for understanding, for Black women to feel heard, for us to have access to the care that we need, and for those that don't look like us to be culturally competent when they're addressing our concerns and our needs. So I genuinely want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Like, this is a Bible for practitioners like myself, even though I am a Black woman, but it has the science and the evidence-based backing to support the practice and what we do and what we need. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it does have the science in it and also very nuanced that the authors are primarily Black women who have their own therapy experiences. so that we can talk about what therapy with Black women looks like in a way that's not often described when people who are not Black women are talking about Black women's experiences in therapy.
Well, it's so good. We're going to have you back. Back so we can just talk about all the issues with Black women. Okay, that's not why we're here today. Today, we're just going to get you guys prepped for your week and even ongoing with holiday stress management tips. This one always comes up. I've always done a lot of TV on this one because oftentimes there's folks where the holidays are not the most pleasant, and the stressors and the triggers come from different areas, whether it's family or maybe you're the person that does everything. You don't want to let folks do the mac and cheese this year, and now you're stressed out. Let somebody else do the mac and cheese. Maybe they will put raisins in it, but at least you're stressed out.
You don't have to do it.
So it's either that, or sometimes folks, if you're introverted, there are stressors that come with that. And then recently, just today, I saw somebody post on my timeline about holidays not being the same because of the loss of a parent. So then we have grief that sets in as well. So what do you see as far as like stressors, triggers around this time of year?
Yeah, this is not the happiest time of the year for a lot of people. It's not the most wonderful time of the year. It can be the most stressful time of year for a lot of us for a lot of different reasons. And one thing that just really stands out to me that especially now affects so many people is the financial stress. So the buying gifts, there's like 12 little kids in my family, and they're like, okay, let's keep it to a $50 budget. That's $600. Huh? That's a lot of money. So there's the financial stress around buying gifts. If you are traveling somewhere, you have to eat when you go there. Maybe you're staying with someone, or do you have to get a hotel? When you're there, you're going to be doing activities. So that amount of money that is going out can be a huge stressor for people, and having a hard time setting boundaries around not spending that money or saying no or not doing those things can create a lot of stress for people. And then that travel in general. So if you are driving and there's just so many more cars on the road, and how stressful that is, that a 3-hour drive is now 10 hours later, we're still on the road and having to deal with that. And that's also going to be a financial stress because we have to pay money for this gas. We may not have the money to pull over and get a hotel room. And was it last year or 2 years ago? I think one of these airlines, like, they just canceled all the flights. So you were just stranded wherever you are. And again, maybe you have somewhere to go in the resources, or maybe you are sleeping in an airport for days on end, and that can be super stressful and overwhelming for people. So taking those things into account. And then, yes, our families. So if we are dealing with the loss of someone, or this is going to be the anniversary of losing someone, then it doesn't feel as joyful, especially if that person who died was the person who kept all the things together, was that matriarch, or that aunt who was always doing those things, and now they're not there. That can feel less enjoyable. So having to deal with the grief of your partner not being there, or your parent not being there, or your child not being there, and what that looks like and how other people are navigating around that situation. And outside of grief, families are not the Hallmark Channel. Families are Tubi. Families are,
Can we at least be the Black side of Lifetime, Dr. Kimber? You had to put us all the way on Tubi.
It's Tubi. So
we all the way on Tubi.
It's that person who they always have to say something, and you're not in a relationship, and what's wrong with you, and why you look like this, or you gained weight. When are you gonna get married?
Ask me that, I'm going to punch a witness ring.
When you get married, when y'all gonna have kids, your weight, what are your grades looking like? All these things that That's stress. And if you haven't asked me these questions, chances are I probably didn't want to share the information with you to begin with. So that's stressful.
This is what you get when you have a Black therapist. Y'all see the bass in her voice came out like, now look, if I didn't answer them, clearly I don't want to ask.
I would have volunteered this information if I wanted you to know this. So that type of stress, but then also there's some real safety concerns. So what happens when I have to go to the home of my abuser? Or what about when the person who is my abuser, I have to sit across the table from them and act like everything's fine. So just not feeling physically, mentally, emotionally safe can be a stressful time for people being around family. Stressful if people don't know about those things that have happened, but maybe even more stressful when people do know and then they're acting as if these things have not happened.
You know, that I'm so glad you brought that up. And I almost wonder, and you know, I never thought about that, and maybe if the statistics actually increase at this time of year because the stress is so high when it comes to DV cases. I wonder. That's gotta be insanely stressful. I didn't even consider that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's our first way of tackling it? Is it just acknowledging, like not playing that it doesn't exist, but acknowledging when that stress or that trigger comes up for you? Like how do we start navigating through it?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's that awareness and that acknowledgement of this is just not going to be necessarily an easy time. So to not go into those situations surprised by what's happening or that I'm triggered in this or I was not expecting this stress. To be aware of, you know who your family is, you know what your bank account looks like, you know what those things are. So to start with acknowledging that, and just acknowledgement alone can do a lot in releasing some of that stress of, okay, I know what is what, I know who is who. But then not just acknowledging it alone, being able to understand and affirm ourselves. So when this person says this thing to me, that's more about them. That's not about me. It personally impacts me, but I don't have to take it as personal. I can be able to separate myself from that. So understanding who you are, being able to ground yourself within yourself, that acknowledgement piece, and being able to start with affirming ourselves and who we are.
Yeah, and then I'm sure that boundaries also come into play with our holiday situations as well. So even in some of those situations, how do you create boundaries when sometimes folks don't feel like those situations provide them with the space to actually do so?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with a boundary that could feel controversial to people. And that boundary is don't go. I'm not coming home for Thanksgiving. No, I won't be there for Christmas because it is not safe for me. And y'all know that it's not a safe place. And if you want to ignore that or act like it's not existing, then I can't participate in that. So to not go. Now, again, that could be a privilege for some people to say, I'm not going to go. Some people, that might not be an option. If I want my college to be paid for, I got to show up. I got to come home. If I need to pick up that car, I got to go there and see these people. So it's not always an option. But when that can be an option in your life, to not go and to not participate in those things. So there's consequences to when we are entering into stressful situations, and they're having to deal with that. And there's consequences when we choose not to enter into those situations, but then we can also take care of ourselves by not entering. So one option and one boundary is I'm just not going to even participate in that. And I can still have my own holiday traditions, family stuff here, but to not be a part of that. However, if we cannot not go, or if we still feel compelled to go, Being able to set those boundaries in terms of how much physically, mentally, emotionally do these other people get to have of me, and setting limits around that. So maybe I need a safe space to go. Is there a room or something that I can go and recharge and then come back in? Is there a meditation I need to put my headphones on and listen to? Is there somebody I need to call or text so I can get that support that I need? Boundaries around that. And it's great if we can have an ally. So I'm not the one who has to say everything. When somebody makes a comment of my weight, for it not to be me who have to say something, for somebody else to be able to chime in and say, leave her alone, or look at your weight, or whatever that comment.
Look at your big back energy.
Okay, big back. Big back.
Oh my gosh. Really, doctor? I'm supposed to be the petty one.
Well, hey, like it doesn't have to be you. You could have your ally who can say those things. And then sometimes an ally just looks like someone who, like, did you hear that? You're okay, you heard that too. So all right, I can release some of that, let some of those things go. But being able to be present within ourselves and set limits on how much we give to other people. But we can go into those situations, not a right or wrong way, how to handle emotional stress, or especially like those comments, those insensitive comments from people. If we feel like I'm going to match that energy, then match that energy. If we feel like I'm going to separate myself from that and those comments, that's a fine reaction to have too. So not to judge ourselves for how we react when someone says something that is invalidating, minimizing, unintentionally or intentionally hurtful to us. That is a shock system, because our worthiness is being activated. My worthiness says, hey, what? That's not okay. And then I get to choose how I react or choose not to react in those situations where someone's trying to attack my self-worth and integrity.
All of that is so good. So many things to think about. So one technique, I remember on a segment we did last year where someone had the idea of, before going into the situation, kind of like using visualization. So almost kind of like internally changing your energy towards a situation, because let's just say repetitively, certain family individuals come with a certain energy or a certain tone towards you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe your perception is already skewed before you even walk through the door. So you're already walking through the door.
Ready.
You're walking through the door like they about to be on that ish. And so one technique that was given was like, hey, just sit in your car, take really deep breaths, and then visualize and act like a different set of circumstances. Visualize a different outcome. That internally will kind of change your energy, and then you'll walk in there and hopefully, it won't be as bad as you're telling yourself it's going to be once you walk in.
Yeah. Michael Jordan is like one of the most well-known visualizers. That he said that he would visualize himself getting up in the morning, getting dressed, getting in his car, getting to the stadium, putting on his practice clothes, doing warm-ups, and like he would visualize himself from the time he woke up to the end of the game, and was very successful then in having that already visual practice before the game even started. So us being able to visualize the outcome that we want, and then the things that we can do to achieve those things, giving ourselves that practice ahead of time, and to set up the opportunity for that to happen in ways that if we are not already visualizing or thinking about those things, we may not actually consider. So the visualization is just being able to be very present with ourselves, and then almost like using the back of our eyelids like a movie screen, just being able to walk through all those different steps that we want to take. And when I work with couples, I talk to them about when you enter into a difficult conversation, before you start the conversation, to consider, how do you want the conversation to end? So to start there with how you want to end, and then come back then to what you need to do to start to get that ending. So when we think about going and we're going to be with our family for the holidays, I want this to be a pleasant trip and I want to leave feeling good. Great. So if I want this to be a pleasant trip and end feeling good, then what do I need to do ahead of time or preparing or throughout then so that I leave that way? And ideally, that's going to be strength-based language. Not, I don't want to cuss anybody out. Okay. So to not cuss anybody out means then I want to be patient and take care of myself throughout this time. And then what do I need to do to be patient and take care of myself? So when they are triggering me, when they're making those comments, then what is the actual things that are going to move me through that? So start with how we want it to end and then work our way back to what we're going to do to get to that ending.
Look, Linda said she sat in her car. She just left. So she
like I said, an option is do not go. That is an option to not participate.
That is hilarious. I'll talk a little bit about the woo. So in my world in meditation, we do a lot of metta. And so what metta is, for anybody that doesn't know, is like loving kindness, compassion. And so we weave this into the meditation. Like you can blend it with the visualization. But sometimes when we're dealing with difficult people in difficult situations, we do this metta meditation. We start with yourself. So we try to change how you speak and feed into yourself, generating that positivity that hopefully will kind of change the chemical makeup of the brain to have you thinking more positively. And then once you're feeling real good because you've told yourself these affirming and positive things. So normally in a metta meditation, you'll hear, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be loving, may I be kind to all beings or whatever, right? And so you start doing that and you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling that in my heart space. Then you turn right around after that, after you start feeling real good, and you bring to mind that difficult person, or you bring to mind that difficult experience, and you say those same phrases that you just said lovingly to yourself to that person. And sometimes when I do that meditation, it's so hard for folks, and they're literally in tears because it's like you're fighting this battle of, I don't want to express that to this person that's causing me so much pain. But then when you do, you actually change your heart to almost have empathy and compassion towards the person that, that's not being so kind to you. And I think that that's another way to kind of change your heart space, or maybe your thinking, to a little bit of empathy and compassion in some of these spaces where it's like, you're on one, but may you be safe. May you feel love. May you be kind. I wish you well. And then knowing that you did all that, you can walk in and hopefully you've generated some sort of positivity within yourself.
Yeah. And doing that, again, maybe not even so much for that to be about the other person, that it's more for you. And you being empathic towards them can actually be a release of that energy for you, even if they are not aware of the empathy, or that you don't necessarily have to express that empathy specifically towards them. Holding and manifesting that within yourself can do much in releasing the strength of the trigger, the frequency of those triggers, and how long that you are impacted by those triggers, when and should they occur.
I love that. I love that you said it's not about them, it's about you. I always feel so great afterwards. Like afterwards, we'll go through several set of circumstances, and the last one is always that difficult person. And when they get done, they've released so much. It's almost as if like the heart's just kind of like, like, ooh, I've lifted that. And like you said, it's more so for yourself than it is for them. But kind of lifting that allows you to go into the situation a little bit lighter instead of, and this about to be to-be-ish. Lord, this is about to be on some Tyler Perry Padilla level. Like, I don't know what's gonna go on.
About the way people react, and often it's coming from a place of their own hurt, their own wounds. Um, Unfortunately, then that's being projected onto us. And if we can connect with how someone else is acting or is treating us is a projection of their hurt and wound, that can help us to separate. That's more about them and the healing that they need to do. No, it's not okay for them to project that onto us, but I can empathize with, you are hurting, you are insecure, you feel inferior. Um, that's unfortunate that you feel that way. And I can release some of the anger towards you because you are wounded. So being able to give ourselves a separation. But to do that, I don't know that that's necessarily automatic. And oftentimes it demands that we have a pause. So giving ourselves that space before we react or comment or leave or whatever it is that we do, to pause and give ourselves an opportunity to take that breath and just sit in our awareness with what's going on. And we want to stay present and mentally activated, our rational thoughts to be activated. So when we are being triggered, what is being triggered is the back of our brain and our amygdala, which is just our raw emotions. We don't want to lose that because that's our fight, freeze, and flight response. But that's what happens when we're triggered. We are ready to fight, we're to flee, I got to get out of here, or we're just frozen like, I can't believe this is happening right now. So in a crisis situation, we need to have that. So we never want it to be fully shut off. But when we are sitting at the dinner table and we're being triggered to fight, flee, or freeze, that's not helpful. But if we can pause and breathe into ourselves, give ourselves that moment to get that clarity, there's actually a neurological pathway from the back of our brain where those raw emotions are to the front of our brain where our prefrontal cortex, where our rational logical thinking is. So that pause can give us a moment to activate that pathway and then to be able to say, how do I want to react in this situation? Is this about me? No. Do I want to do this? Yes. Where is my ally at? So that pause can keep us activated in our rational or logical thinking, or really in our wise mind, where we can make decisions that are both a combination of our rational thinking and our emotional self, being able to pull those pieces together. But it's not an instantaneous thing. It takes just that pause of, okay, and now I can move forward with this.
And some of y'all don't be pausing. You go straight to nuck and buck, and it's all over.
Right.
It's
right.
all over.
Right.
So what I've heard you say so far throughout this entire discussion is, one, either going into these situations or however, acknowledging when the stress arises. And I'll also add, not to judge what arises for you. Don't judge yourself. Just acknowledge it without judgment. Two, like you said, take that pause. Take a deep breath when you're triggered. Don't go nuck if you buck or Tubi. Okay. And then choose how you want to react, or like you said, find your ally, or maybe like you said, where you're in your mind and you're saying, it's you, it's not me. Like, I'm sorry you feel that way. So it's steps within the process so that you can manage it a little bit better instead of just being reactive.
Yeah. And for it to be, this is a space and time. So is this a 2-hour dinner I have to get through, or is this a weekend I have to get through? And then what's happening outside of that? So, okay, I'm going to be here for a week and Thanksgiving is a day. What are the things, other things that I'm doing that I really can enjoy? Visiting and exploring the city, seeing this friend, getting that rest, doing those things. So to not let the entire experience be whatever that piece of time is, and being able to build ourselves before or have those things, the recovery things that we need after. So I love like those ideas of Friendsgivings, where I get to choose to be around people who I enjoy and love and support. So having that before or after we have engaged with family or these other stressful situations, to get us filled up before we go, or when I can look forward to this. I know that this is not the only way that this looks. There's these other things too, and these other people who really care about me and lift me up.
And I'll also layer on that last piece before we wrap too, is that traditions are just that, right? Tradition. No one says you have to stick to it. So if for you to find peace or joy or happiness, you need to set a new tradition where you leave and, like you said, go get a massage, or you only show up for the 1 hour and then you have something totally waiting on you at home, and that is your Thanksgiving or that is your Christmas. Be compelled within yourself to honor a new tradition that is more in alignment with who you are and how you want to feel and what you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to carry on something that's been going on for 30 years and it's been causing you so much distress.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have new traditions. And then we're also going to be forced to have new traditions that, again, that person or that experience doesn't exist anymore. So we have to create new traditions, and we can, again, validate our grief around that and mourn it. However, in our healing, then we're coming up with new ways of connecting, celebrating, honoring, remembering, being together.
This is so great, Dr. Kimber. So how can folks get in touch with you? This was like a little therapy session. I felt great. How can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more or get tapped into these virtual sessions?
Yeah, so you can just Google my name, Dr. Kimber Shelton. You can find me at doc.kimber on all my social medias. And I'm always available by email, so you can find that on my website too, but just put in my name and I will pop up.
And Linda says, is it too late for her as a 72-year-old woman? She's being very transparent.
Nope. As long as we can set boundaries and make changes, we get the opportunity to set boundaries and make changes. People don't always like the boundaries that we set, and they can have a reaction to that. However, there's also consequences when we're not setting these boundaries that end up hurting us. So no, it's never too late to set different boundaries, create different traditions, move in a different way.
And I'm rooting for you, Linda. You are such a sweetheart. So you got this. It is not too late. It is not too late. And oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for the insightful information and tips. Dr. Kimber is the truth. Listen, I have many more plans for her. I haven't told her. I was going to say it live so that I could manipulate her into doing it. I won't do that.
There's no manipulation.
And I will say, again, if you are a therapist, a practitioner, and honestly, if you're just a book nerd and you want to know the insights that these incredible women, including Dr. Kimber Shelton, have come up with in relation to African American women, our trauma, like how therapists should literally be counseling us. And like I said, all the science behind it, the history behind it. This is the book. It is fascinating. I'll put a link in the comments. But
it makes a great gift. It's a great holiday gift. Gift it to your therapist.
Do you have any events coming up? What if people want to see you and meet you in person?
Yes, if you are in Kansas City, I'll be in Kansas City.
This is Dallas audience. But okay, go ahead. Promote Kansas City.
Sorry. I'll be in Kansas City talking about, what am I talking about in Kansas City? Affirmations that we can take into the new year. And then there'll be some more stuff happening next year. But I think that's my last thing, as I will be just focusing on my 6-year-old twins and their holiday season. Making it a memorable or a good holiday season for them so that they're not feeling like they need to set boundaries and whatnot in the future.
That is hilarious. Well, thank you all for tuning in. If you are not a part of Shameless Plug, if you're not a part of my Facebook group, Leah Hill's Sacred Serenity Circle, I definitely encourage you to definitely join the group. Dr. Kimber Shelton and all of our other experts, I've invited them in. I'm so grateful for their time. I will be doing a thanks for uploading because I'm gonna be asleep. But by 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, you guys will have access to a gratitude meditation, and we'll be doing even more like this going into the new year. So thank you all for joining. Dr. Kimber, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate it.
You too. I will be eating some turkey.
All right, girl. See you later.
Thank you.
Everybody. And I think